Let's take a look at the resistance of Aceh. There were basically two groups, one feudal group and a more religious group. The latter group was led by Chikdi Tiro. By 1878, he had formed different combat groups and had even deserters of the Kolonial in his ranks. With religious calls, he tried to rally people to his side. Do not be deceived by the power of the disbelievers, their wealth, their tools, and their good soldiers compared to our might. For none is mighty, and none bestows defeat or victory but Allah. At the height of his power, Chikdi Tiro managed to rally 6,000 soldiers, and despite heavy losses on Dutch positions, the Dutch could never feel at ease. Every time they could be attacked by warriors that came out of nowhere. They also managed to blow up railway buildings. One deserter of the Kolonial had managed to give them dynamite, which they now used against the Dutch. In 1890, another expedition force was sent. 1,560 men. They ventured outside the area, they set ablaze many villages and also killed 80 enemies. Chikdi Tiro died in 1891. His descendants continued the struggle. Two persons then entered the scene to advise the Dutch on what to do. One was a Dutch scholar from Leiden, Christian Snoek Hurgronje. He was an expert in Oriental cultures and had visited Mecca as a Muslim, where he had spoken to pilgrims from Aceh. Snoek Hurgronje advised respect towards Islam, but repression against its deviant politics. And this inspired the Dutch government, basically tolerate the moderate and combat the extreme. The second person that came to the scene was an experienced army officer, Johannes Benedictus van Heuts. He stated, "The Aceh war is gnawing at our colonial property. It must end. Let us finally show the civilized world that we are capable of this." Van Heuts advocated fair governance versus crackdown on resistance. And so, in the 1890s, the Dutch left their defensive strategy. And they did this with a new formation, named Korps Marechaussee te Voet. These were well-trained gendarmeries that were armed with a klewang, a saber, and a carbine. Their mission was to venture outside the perimeter and chase the rebels and take them out. As a result of this, the Achenese warriors from now on were more hesitant to attack the Dutch posts because they knew they could be chased by well-trained gendarmeries. Then Teuku Umar came to the scene. He was an Achenese warlord and was willing to work with the Dutch. After the death of Chikdi Tiro, he vowed to take down the enemy warlords of the region. Those who resisted would be crushed. Yet, those who were willing to cooperate with the Dutch could count on protection. Van Heuts ordered that only the houses of resistance fighters should be burned down. The red rooster method, basically burning down whole villages, was abandoned. In the same year, Van Heuts personally led an expedition force to Pedir. From there, the troops moved up to the coast, from Sambalanga to Telok Semawe. A series of battles were fought. During a raid at night, the Dutch managed to capture some of the rebel leaders, but the main ringleaders were missing. Leader Umar died in 1899 during an ambush. His wife, Chutniok Dien, continued the resistance. Eventually she was captured and exiled to Java. She's now featured on one of the Indonesian banknotes. In 1901, Van Heut marched on the religious center of Batae Ilik in Sambalanga and managed to capture this stronghold. When resistance seemed futile, one Achenese warrior took a torch and ignited the gunpowder stash, blowing up himself and 70 of his fellow warriors. After the capture of this place, Van Heut made more progress. The Sultan, Muhammad Daud Zia, was eventually forced to surrender. Another leader named Polen II turned himself in. Both were not exiled, but became the new rulers, loyal to the Dutch. Van Stoep did not like this, because he saw how the reinstated Sultan suppressed his own population, and this did not mean the end of resistance. From the homeland and within the military, criticism arose. The war had dragged on for years now, and reports of atrocities emerged. One Dutch infantry captain asked himself how Van Heut's deputy, Colijn, future Prime Minister of the Netherlands, could combine these actions with his Christian faith. It was claimed that killed enemy fighters were mutilated. People were tortured. Houses where fire came from were riddled by bullets. As a result of this, killing women and children. Van Heut called this slander.